And we're here live, podcast number 6, Talk Sports to Me with the Sports Guru. For all you basketball fans out there, this is your favorite time of the year. We're approaching March Madness. I'm Jason Thompson, the Sports Guru, live from Mount Orab Sports Complex. We will be talking SBAAC basketball. We'll be talking Southern Hills League Athletic Conference basketball. We will be talking Cincinnati hoops, and we will also be talking upcoming events in the Mount Orab Sports Complex. Today's episode is brought to you by none other than Hauser's Discount Mart in Mount Orab, Ohio. We thank the Hauser family for their support and their donation. We're going to get started here tonight, and we're going to start with Division I. Division I, Cincinnati Southwest District is one of the hardest districts in the state of Ohio if you're basketball people. I do want to say, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, please post them below and I will respond to them. That's something new we're going to start doing. If you notice tonight, I also do not have a guest on the podcast. Just me. I'm going to tackle this basketball segment by myself tonight. We did have some people who were supposed to be on the show, but they had some district responsibilities in terms of district voting and all district voting and all league voting and that type of thing. So welcome again, podcast number 6, Talk Sports to Me with the Sports Guru, live from Mount Orab Sports Complex. We do have 14U soccer going on down below. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please tune in. In Division I, Cincinnati, we'll get started right away. You'll see me fumbling through some paperwork here because I did do some research. I wanted to have all my information put together for you so we could get straight to the guts and the meat and potatoes of the upcoming Southwest District basketball tournament. With the number 1 seed overall, like normal, the Moeller Crusaders. Moeller Crusaders were 6-0 in the GCL, the Greater Catholic League, which is probably the toughest, one of the toughest, if not the toughest leagues in basketball, in high school basketball, in the state of Ohio, maybe in the country. They're the overall number 1 seed, and they will play the 32 seed Little Miami, who was 1-21 on the season. Archbishop Moeller was 20-1. They play a brutal schedule. They play teams that are nationally ranked, and they're led by Max Land, who is former UC standout Eugene Land's son. Eugene Land graduated from Roger Bacon, class in 1998, and he has got a son now, Max. He's a 6'4 senior. He's averaging 14.1 points per game, and Max is a great all-around player. Saw him last year at the state tournament in person, and he was a great contributor to their state championship last year with Mr. McBride, who is now at West Virginia. They also have Alex Williams, averaging 13.9 points per game. He's a 6'4 junior. He is also a very, very good player. And Logan Duncombe, 6'9 junior. Saw him last year at the state tournament. He was a sophomore. I was really impressed by what he was able to do on the inside in terms of rebounding and handling pressure and altering shots at the rim. He's averaging 13 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, and he's shooting 68.6% from the field. So he is a force to be reckoned with on the inside. He is a high major Division I prospect. Last but not least, Michael Kern for them. He will play Division II college basketball somewhere, maybe mid-major Division I. He's a 6'2 senior. He's averaging right at 4 assists per game. He's also a really, really good player. The number 2 seed in the Colerain in the Hamilton High School D1 boys bracket was Lakota East. Don't really have a whole lot of background information on Lakota East. Haven't got a chance to see them play. I do know that they have a very outstanding record, and their record is 18-2, and they'll be taking on Kings, who is 5-15. They're the 27 seed. Let's get back more locally. Let's talk about Goshen. Goshen is 14-8 overall, 6-4 in the conference. Their head coach is Brandon Baker. He is a Division I player. Played at let me think where Mr. Baker played at. In the school in Tennessee, got a whole bunch of shooters. If you know the school, help me out. They make some NCAA tournament runs. He was a part of a couple of those NCAA tournament runs. Josh Heiss, 16.9 points per game. And Hunter Slusher, 3.6 assists per game. Coach Baker's doing a great job with that group. and what Coach Wake left behind. Coach Wake had a long tenure at Goshen and did a really good job there, and he left Coach Baker some talent, and Coach Baker's been able to make the most of it. Coach Woodward did tap in with me here. Belmont in Tennessee is where Brandon Baker played. He was a knockdown shooter and a very integral part of a lot of successful seasons there at Belmont, and was able to bring that to Goshen. And now Goshen is experiencing success, 14-8 overall, 6-4 in the conference. On the home front, the Western Brown Broncos. I'm going to spend a couple minutes and talk about Western Brown. Craig Foster, who was a guest on the show, was the former head coach over there. He spent some time over there, did a great job while he was coaching there. And what he did was he left the program behind to Drake Williams, who, interesting parodies there, that Drake is the younger brother of Doug. Doug is now at Western Latham, but Doug was at Western Brown, had some successful seasons there. Coach Foster was his JV coach. Coach Foster took the head coaching job, and now Drake has taken the head coaching job over at Western Brown. Western Brown finished 13-7 overall, 6-4 in the SBAAC, and they were playing for a league title up until the last week of the season. They've got a tough task ahead of them, though. The task is Turpin. Turpin, who has had a great season, led by Dominic Contrella, 3.5 assists per game, and Jackson Holt, 13.3 points per game. They've also got Thiessen Lee. He's shooting 63.8% from the field, and Owen Spencer's getting 7 rebounds a game. So they are a really good team. They're really, really well-rounded. They've got a lot of good players, and I just think that Western Brown Turpin game is going to go for a while. I think Western Brown will compete at a high level for a while. Just don't know what will happen down the stretch. Here's the kicker. Western Brown does have a couple of players that can heat up very quick. One of those players being Zion Tall. He's averaging 17.2 points per game, 2.6 assists per game, so right about 3 assists per game. Very, very good player. Dual threat in terms of basketball-wise, inside out. He can post you. He can get there off the dribble. He can shoot a little bit. He's really versatile. So Western Brown does have their hands full with Turpin, but I think they'll be able to hang in there, and I think they'll be able to make a run at winning that first-round sectional game. In other parts of the bracket, like we said, Little Miami plays Archbishop Moeller. Edgewood plays Harrison. Goshen plays Western Hills. Loveland plays Lakota West. Princeton plays Talawanda. Colerain awaits the winner of Little Miami and Moeller. And Mason awaits the winner of Lakota West. And Winton Woods of Loveland and Lakota West. And Winton Woods awaits the winner of Princeton and Talawanda. So that's just a look at your Division I bracket on the first page. That's the bracket over at Hamilton. The bracket at Lakota West will have Lakota East at 18-2, taking on Kings at 5-15. Turpin, the number 4 seed, at 17-3, taking on number 24 seed Western Brown with an overall record of 13-7, 6-4 in the conference. And Anderson, the 26th seed at 6-14, will take on Elder, which is 12-9. And don't be mistaken by Elder's record at 12-9. They do play in the GCL. It is a very tough conference. They play on the men's side. There is a men's side, there's a co-ed side. They play on the men's side. So they play the likes of Moeller and St. X, and they've played a really tough schedule this year. So, be ready and be looking out for Elder at 12-9. Western Brown at 13-7. I do believe that they're a dark horse on that side of the bracket in terms of being able to win a game. I think we could see an upset with number 4 Turpin at 17-3. Turpin is a very good team with some very good players, but I have seen them a little bit this year, here and there, hit or miss, and I think that they are beatable. Oak Hills at 15-5. The number 5 seed will take on the 23 seed Sycamore Aviators at 6-14. This will be at Fairfield. Withrow at 4-15. The 30 seed will take on LaSalle, the number 3 seed, at 19-2. Middletown will await the winner at 6-14 of Withrow and LaSalle. Walnut Hills will await the winner of Oak Hills and Sycamore. And Northwest at 6-14 will await the winner of Lakota East and Kings. So that'll round out that side of the bracket, that part of the bracket. Cincinnati 5 in the Division I boys basketball bracket, also at Fairfield High School, has the number 8 seed, 14-6, Hamilton Big Blue, taking on the 18 seed Fairfield, 7-13. West Claremont, the 9 seed at 15-5. They've had a very good season. I don't know. Some of you may know. Some of you may not. Coach Maz was at Amelia for a long time, and now he's at West Claremont when the schools merged. And I know that Mr. Collins, the AD over there, and Coach Maz have done a really good job to continue the good culture that they had at Amelia and Glen Estee and put it to West Claremont. Milford is the 19 seed. They play West Claremont. And then St. Xavier at 13-6, the 7 seed, also a member of the men's GCL, awaits the winner of West Claremont and Milford. Mount Healthy, the 13 seed at 15-4, awaits the winner of Hamilton and Fairfield. Again, back on the home front, it is my prediction that the Western Brown Broncos, the 24 seed at 13-7, will somehow find an upset of Turpin at 17-3 in the first round, Saturday, February 22nd at 6:30 at Lakota West. I think Zion Tall will have a humongous game. I think he'll score 25 plus. I think Yanni Williams will get in double-digit scoring and double-digit rebounding, and I think one of the Novak brothers will also score 15 or 20, and I think they'll upset them because I think Coach Williams will do a good job at controlling the pace and not allowing Turpin to play the style of game that they want to play. Again, Moeller is the overall favorite. They're 6-0 in the conference, the GCL. They're the number 1 seed, and they finished 20-1 in the regular season, led by Max Land at 14-1, Alex Williams 14.1 points per game, and Alex Williams at 13.9 points per game. Logan Duncombe at 13.8 points per game and 8.7 rebounds per game, shooting almost 70% from the field. Moeller is the favorite to come out of that side and go play the winner of Dayton 1 at the Centos Center on March 8th at 3 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns about the D1 bracket, if I can help, please let me know, and I will do whatever I can to answer any questions moving forward. We're going to move on to D2. D2's got a little more local action, okay? On the D1 side, we really only had Western Brown and Goshen to talk about in some length, but we will have some more teams on the D2 front. We'll talk about the number 16 seed Wilmington Hurricanes. We'll talk about the number 4 seed McNicholas, Archbishop McNicholas, who also plays in the GCL and the co-ed side. Number 17, Bethel Tate, that I believe probably exceeded some expectations on what people thought that they could get accomplished this year, winning 7-12 and 5-7 in the league play. Number 19 seed Batavia Bulldogs, number 9 seed New Richmond Lions, who won the big school side of the league with a 9-1 record, led by Evan Esparro at 15.6 points per game. Number 6 Blanchester, who is led by Mr. Sipple, who's averaging almost 35 points a game, and number 21 seed at 2-20, Clinton Massey. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of that side on D3, on D2. D2, first round action, we've got McNicholas against Bethel Tate, number 4 seed against number 17 seed. McNicholas was 13-7 on the regular season, and Bethel was 7-12, which for Bethel was a modest record with what I think people thought that they would have coming back. They graduated a couple kids last year, and they graduated some kids the year before that, and Bethel has struggled a little bit. But Coach Wolf has done a good job over there in terms of getting his kids ready and getting his kid prepared to play some games, and they started out hot, slowed down toward the end, schedule got a little tougher, but this is going to be by far their toughest test of the year. McNick is well coached by Tim Monahan, assisted by Tom Jutzy, and they will be ready. Those two guys are absolute ringers when it comes to preparation and getting their kids ready. Coach Jutsy's been at Ripley, he's been at Glen Estee, he's been at Fayetteville, and he has been at McNick as an assistant, and he's been at Bethel as a head coach. And everywhere he's ever been, his teams have always competed for league championships, and they've always been able to make tournament runs. 1996, he won the sectional and district and played in the regional semifinal at Ripley. I was fortunate enough to be part of that team with him. And now they get ready to embark on battle again in another tournament run with him and his assistant. Interesting tidbit, his son Griffin is a senior now, and he's playing at McNick for Coach Monahan and for Coach Jutsy. And so Griffin has been at McNick for 4 years. Coach Jutsy wanted all of his kids to go to GCL schools, but Griff was the one who ended up having the opportunity. Coach Jutsy's been along as an assistant for the ride, and it's been a great experience for both of them, I'm sure. And they will take on Bethel Friday night, February 21st at 6 o'clock at Mason High School. The next game, February 22nd at Monroe, at Mason, Monroe, the 12 seed, will take on the 11 seed Taylor, who is 12-8. Don't know much about either one of those programs. Tried to do some research, had a hard time finding some information, but I do know that it'll be a competitive matchup, because anytime you match an 11 seed against a 12 seed, a team that's 13-7 against a team that's 12-8, you should have. It should be a grind, and it should be a fun game to watch. Purcell Marion, it looks like it says they're 6-14 here. They're the 4 seed. They play the number 5 seed Woodward, who is 10-9. That's Saturday, February 22nd at 4:30, also at Mason. I thought Purcell's record was a little better than that, so I don't know if that's a misprint or what, but that's what we got. That's what we got here, 6-14. So we'll see, if that is their ultimate record or not. I know they're in the co-ed division, and they're very, very competitive in that division. On the flip side of things, we've got Cincinnati 2, which is also at Mason High School. First round action, February 21st at 7:30. Batavia at 5-15 versus Wyoming, who was 20-0 at the time of tournament draw. So Wyoming is hitting on all cylinders right now. There was some controversy. I talked to Coach Steve Gentry from Deer Park, and there was a little bit of controversy in terms of they were supposed to play a game. Deer Park had some kids that were sick. I'm not sure what happened with that, but they had sick players. They didn't get to play the game, and the game, I don't guess, was made up, and because of that, Wyoming may have ended up winning the league outright when it could have possibly been a share. So that was something that was a topic of this conversation. I tried to embark in conversation with Coach Gentry about it. Didn't really give me any positive feedback, didn't give me any negative feedback, did just tell me that it was true. So that is what it is, and Wyoming is 20-0 at this point and playing Batavia in the first round of the sectional tournament at Mason on Friday, February 21st. Hamilton-Baden at 16-4, the number 3 seed. Also a program that's rich in basketball tradition. Really, really good program with some really, really good players and really, really good coaching. So I look for Baden to be able to make some type of run. But Roger Bacon also plays in that GCL as well. And they're 7-13. They're the 15th seed. And so I'm sure those kids and their coaching staff doesn't feel like that they potentially got the respect that they necessarily deserve, drawing a 15 seed at 7-13 with the schedule that they play. So, on that side of things, I think that'll be a good game. Indian Hill at 13, 11-8, plays in the CHL. Great conference. They play in a conference with Wyoming. They play in a conference with Finneytown. There's a lot of good schools in that conference. Some of the Cincinnati schools that aren't public schools, that are like not suburban schools, but schools in the city necessarily, they all are packed together in that conference, and that's a very good competitive conference. I believe Seven Hills is in that conference maybe. So it's a real good conference. The Indian Hill Braves will take on Aiken, who is 10-8 and that'll be at 7:30 on February 22nd. So there's a lot of good basketball that'll be played on Friday, February 21st and Saturday, February 22nd. So if you're not doing anything, get out to Western Brown High School or Mason High School or Lakota West High School and catch yourself a couple games. Moving on to the other side of this Division II bracket. Norwood is the number 20 seed at 4-16. They will play Hughes, who is 5-15. Hughes is 5-15 coming off losing Paul McMillian IV, who was a flat-out stud at Hughes last year as a freshman, transferred over to Woodward, which is where he was going to go to school initially, I believe. And he's back over at Woodward. Woodward had a good season, but Hughes had a really good season without him. And so they're 15. They were 15-5 at the time of the tournament draw. Not sure how they ended up, but they will play Norwood, the 20 seed. Clinton Massey will await the winner of the 20 seed Norwood and number 2 seed Hughes. And they're 1-19. Clinton Massey has got some scrappy kids. They'll play hard. But, I don't know that they have a chance to necessarily get either one of those two teams. Both those teams are very competitive and play with a chip on their shoulder, and they're inner city kids, and I think they've got a little bit of an advantage over Clinton Massey. Ross, the number 8 seed, 13-7, will play the number 9 seed New Richmond. New Richmond 16-4. They're a sleeper. I think Coach McMonagle has waited for several years to have this type of group, and I think that this type of group was able to put the effort forth that he needed them to put forth to get them a league title. Winning a league title always gives you a little bit of extra juice when propelling yourself into tournament time. So I look for New Richmond to knock off Ross, upset Ross. I don't know if an 8-9 seed would be considered an upset, but I do look for New Richmond to win that game over Ross, and that's Saturday, February 22nd at 5:30. Moving down the bracket, number 10, Bishop Fenwick's 10-10. Their 10-10 is deceptive because Bishop Fenwick always plays a really tough schedule. Really competitive soccer game going on down below. 14U is what we got. U14 is what we got going on a Sunday night. Young man, both of his shoes are untied, and he just fell. But anyway, Bishop Fenwick is a good team. But Blanchester is the number 6 seed at 18-1, and I do believe that Blanchester will get what they're looking for from Bishop Fenwick. I don't know that Blanchester's schedule has been one of which Coach Weber does a great job with those kids over there. This will be a great test for Braden Sipple because he'll get a little taste of what the competitive grind out possession defense that's played in the GCL. And so I think that this will be a good test for Blanchester and for Braden and for Hunter Bear. I think it'll be a good opportunity for us to see where they're at. Jason Preston, you spelled it for me, buddy. I don't need to spell it. You spelled it for me. So, in Division II, we'll talk about Wilmington. Wilmington's 10-11 overall, 7-3 in the conference. Cam Kumler is their best player. He's averaging 21.6 points per game. Brady Vilvin is also a great role player. He averages 2.3 assists per game. He keeps everybody involved, and I think that he's going to be. I think that the Wilmington has got somewhat of a shot against Moeller if they're able to speed up the pace a little bit. But if they allow Moeller to slow them down and play Moeller's brand of basketball, it's going to be a long night for Wilmington on February the 25th if Moeller beats, or if McNick beats Bethel Tate. If McNick beats Bethel Tate, it will be hard for Wilmington to overcome McNick. McNick, on the other hand, is 15-7, 10-4 in the conference. Evan Bruno, 15.1 points per game. He was just selected this afternoon Co-Player of the Year in that conference, the GCL Co-Ed division. Nick Schulte, 3.4 assists per game. He's also a really good player. Like I spoke on earlier, That coaching staff over there at McNick is as good as anybody in the city, and I'll tell it to anybody. Tom Jutzy and Tim Monahan and those guys that they got over there at McNick can flat out coach. And I know it firsthand because we went to McNick shootout and played, and they're very disciplined. And I played and got an opportunity to coach with Tom Jutzy. I know what he's about. I know what he stands for. And Tim Monahan is no fool. He takes his knowledge along with Coach Jutzy's knowledge and the rest of the coaching staff, and he's able to put it all together to make it work. And they've got a great program going on over there at McNick. Kettering-Alter did win the league, that side of the league, over McNick. And so Kettering-Alter is in the Dayton district. So they may meet again on down the road if they can get out of that, if they can get out of this Southwest Cincinnati sectional, this Mason sectional. Bethel Tate 7-12, 5-7 in the conference, led by Kyle Smith, 16.1 points per game. Kyle's about 6'4", 6'5", very athletic. Baseball and football are kind of his main sports, but he is a really good basketball player. And I would say that Kyle exceeded the expectations of what he was looking for in a senior season in terms of the win-loss record and in terms of his play. Batavia at 6-16. Coach Brose does a good job over there. It's one of those like Western Brown situations where, you don't have, Batavia has really got like D3 talent playing in the D2 sectional. If you look at their size and you look at their athleticism, it's Division III athleticism and size. It's not Division II athleticism and size. And so, they've got a rough way to go playing the number 1 seed Wyoming Cowboys at 20-0 in the first round. It's February 21st at 7:30 at Mason. But if I know Coach Brose, his team's going to come out and they're going to compete and they're going to give it a little bit of everything that they got. New Richmond, 17-5, 9-1, again led by Evan Esparro, 15.6 points per game. Caden Pollard and Justin Ackerman are really good players as well. They're league champs in the big school side. Outlasted Goshen and Western Brown down the stretch to win the league. And again, congratulations to Coach McMonigal for getting a league championship. Blanchester, the number 6 seed, led by Braden Sipple, 35 points per game. Hunter Baird, 10.2 rebounds, 4 blocks per game. And they've also got good guard play and Tanner Krieger. Blanchester can upset somebody in this tournament. So that wraps up Division II. Archbishop McNicholas is my favorite to get out of Cincinnati 1 at Mason. Wyoming is my favorite to get out of Cincinnati 2. And I am taking Hughes getting out of number 3. Hughes getting out of Cincinnati 3, which is over at Princeton. And so that's the Division II wrap-up. So right now we've been through Division I, we've been through Division II, we've talked about Western Brown, we've talked about Goshen, we've talked about all of our local schools, we've talked about Turpin, we've talked about a little about Moeller, because when you talk basketball in Cincinnati, you have to talk Moeller, whether we're in the city or not. You have to talk Moeller just because of what they bring to the table every year. And when you're a basketball fan such as I am, and you attend the state tournament every year, such as I do, you like to see Cincinnati teams get there. And Moeller is there every single year, almost. So they've been there the last 3 or 4 years for sure. They've won it the last 2 or 3. So Moeller is my favorite to be in Columbus again, March the 19th through 21st at the Schottenstein Center. Moeller is my favorite yet again to win the state tournament in Division I. Don't know if we have a state champion in Division II from the Cincinnati district, but I do believe that there are several teams that can get there, McNick being one of them, Wyoming being one of them, and Hughes being one of them. Moving on to Division III. We're really getting, now we talk about our local teams. We talk about the teams that are right here local. And if you're watching, you're going to hear some names in Division III and Division IV that are names, household names, names that you've been hearing since they were playing youth basketball, or they may be the names of some of your kids that are tuned in. So Division III and Division IV is up next. Again, the first two segments of Talk Sports to Me with the Sports Guru is brought to you by Hauser's Discount Market in Mount Orb, Ohio. Division III, we've got Williamsburg, East Clinton, Gamble Montessori, Georgetown, and Claremont Northeastern, all from right here locally. Tournament starts Division III Saturday, February 22nd, Friday, February 21st, and these games will be played at Western Brown and Princeton High School. First, we'll start off with the Cincinnati 1 bracket, which will be played right here in Mount Orb. Cincinnati 1, the first game here, will host Marymount, which is the number 8 seed, versus the number 13 seed, Clark Montessori. Marymount's 9-15. Clark is 6-15. Both teams play a tough schedule, and both teams play in tough conferences. Clark Montessori is in a conference with New Miami and a few other schools that are going to be competitive and make some tournament runs. Marymount plays in the CHL, which we talked about a couple of teams who play in the CHL. I don't really have a favorite in that game, don't know enough about either team, but I do know that it will be a competitive game, and if you're here in Mount Orb, Saturday, February 22nd at 1 o'clock, and you don't have anything to do, this will be the place to be. Riverview East is the 17th seed. They'll play Taft, who is the number 1 seed in the D3 bracket. Taft is 14-6. They play in the Cincinnati Public League, the CMAC, and they play some really, really good teams. That's Woodward, Withrow, just to name a couple teams that are on their schedule that they play a couple of times a year. They'll play Riverview East. Riverview East is 3-15, and they're trying to evolve as a basketball program. Riverview East is located in a weird part of the city down off Kellogg. And so it's tough for them to get kids down there, and it's tough for them to get kids that are basketball players, because if you're from the city and you play basketball, you typically want to go to some other schools. Cincinnati 2, which is also played at Western Brown. Finneytown, the number 7 seed at 10-9 versus number 6 seed Gamble Montessori. Spoke with Coach Allen earlier today. Coach Allen gave me the names of a few players that are really, really good. I'm running behind on time, but what I'm going to say is this. Berto Allen can flat out coach, and he's over at Gamble Montessori. He went there 5 years ago. When I was at Bethel, we played them, and he didn't have much talent. He had good kids, but he didn't have much talent. And he did the most with the talent that he had. And he ended up putting together a really good basketball team over the last couple years. They were Division IV. If they were Division IV again this year, I would say they'd be my favorite to win the sectional. I just have that much faith in Coach Allen and the players that he develops. He just doesn't coach, he develops as well. And when you're one of the guys that develop and you just don't chase talent, you're going to be better for longer. And so I think that Coach Allen is going to be really good, or Coach Allen's going to be really good at Gamble for as long as he wants to stay there, because he's developing talent. They're 12-6, and they play the number 7 seed Finneytown, 10-9. I got Gamble in this game. Number 11 seed Madeira at 8-13 versus number 12 Georgetown at 10-10. Georgetown scrappy. Those kids are going to come to play, and Coach Kopus does a good job. Corey Kopus in his first year at Georgetown. A lot of people that aren't basketball people don't get this part. When you're from a program that has had a lot of success and that wins, it is hard to go other places where, the culture has not been what the culture is at the program that you came from. And Corey lucked out because he got this head coaching job at Georgetown, so he was able to be part of a culture, to join a culture that was like the culture at North Adams. And so I thought Georgetown would have a down year. They were 10-10 at the time of the tournament draw, and they were 6-6 in the conference. No real superstars on the team. Josh Galley is a solid player. The Kratzer kid provides an inside presence, and he's a scrappy, and he stretches the floor. The Kratzer kid is their big kid, but he stretches the floor. He can shoot the three a little bit. Blake Tall has emerged lately. He had 25 against Felicity last week, and he is starting to get to the rim. Georgetown scrappy. Madeira is in for a dogfight. Just so everybody knows that Madeira is in for a dogfight. It's not going to be easy. The biggest part about this game is essentially on Georgetown's home floor. Like it's in Georgetown's home territory because Georgetown is 15 minutes from Mount Orb, and Georgetown has played 2 games, if not 3, this year already at Western Brown in the Holiday Classic. So they've been on this floor. They're familiar with these floor. These kids play at Western Brown a couple times a year, and Madeira's going to have their hands full with that game, with them already having played there a couple times this season. Number 3 seed CHCA at 18-2 will await the winner of the Georgetown G-Men and Madeira. Cincinnati Country Day, the number 4 seed CCD, my boy Greg Ross, real good coach, been doing it a long time. He's tied in with the city. He's a Glen Estee guy. He knows just about everybody. He's one of the real good guys in basketball, and he'll have his CCD group ready at 17-3. They're the number 4 seed. Whoever wins that game between Gamble and Finneytown, I know I picked Gamble, but whoever wins that game between Gamble and Finneytown, they've got their hands full. CCD was scrappy last year, and those kids were young, just didn't have a lot of talent. And, they'll be ready this year to win a game or 2 in the tournament. East Clinton, the 18 seed at 2-18. Coach Tony Berlin just struggles, over there. He's real young, got a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, got his son Jordan over there helping him now. And they're building a program over there at East Clinton, but it's going to take some time. So, East Clinton fans, be patient. Coach Berlin's a real good coach. He knows what he's doing. But they do have a task ahead of them, having to play Taft. If Taft, the number 1 seed, beats 17 seed Riverview East on the opening night. Williamsburg, Coach Dan McKibben at 8-11. I think they exceeded some expectations this year in terms of what other people thought that they would get accomplished. I'm sure Coach McKibben would have liked to have been closer to 500, but 8-11 is a respectable year with the schedule that they play. And, at the end of the day, I think that Williamsburg, if they can control tempo and control pace, have a shot against Marymount or Clark Montessori. But they're going to have to control tempo, and they're going to have to control pace. Moving on, Summit Country Day, 8-12, the 10 seed versus the number 9 seed, North College Hill. North College Hill at 9-11. Don't really know much about either one of those teams. I know Shannon Miners at North College Hill. He's a great coach. He's been doing his thing for a long time, and he's really, really good, man. So I don't know who C&E, the number 5 seed, will play, but they're going to play Summit Country Day on North College Hill, and that's going to be a real good game. Skylar Schmidt in the paint is a load. He's a handful, 6'5", averaging almost 26 points a game, and he's just a junior. He's not going to go down without a fight to either one of these teams. Deer Park, number 2 seed, my boy, Coach Steve Gentry, good friend of mine. They're 17-1. They're going to be a tough out. Reading at 16 seed at 2-18. Reading always comes to compete. Last year they were able to make a push toward a sectional championship, but this year I don't think they'll get out of the first round. Deer Park will win that game and play Seven Hills, and I think that it'll be Deer Park and C&E in the sectional final Friday, February 28th at 7:30 against one another at Princeton High School. I do believe it will be Deer Park versus C&E in the sectional final. To give you a little insight on some players in Division III, we'll talk about Skylar Schmidt, 25.6 points per game from C&E. Bryce Reese, 11 points per game, 4 assists per game. Schmidt's also averaging 15 rebounds. So he's the type of kid that can control the whole game. He can control the paint, and he can control the perimeter. So that's going to be a tough task for whoever they play if they don't figure out containment on Skylar Schmidt and Bryce Reese out top and the CNE Rockets. So that'll wrap up Division 2, or Division 3, I'm sorry, and we'll move on to Division 4, Southwest District. Southwest District, Division 4. Hillcrest in the first round, Saturday, February 22nd at 1 o'clock. All these games will be played out at Taylor High School. So it's a journey for most of these teams. Felicity's in that sectional. Fayetteville's in that sectional. Ripley's in that sectional. So all those teams have quite far to travel. Number 9 seed Hillcrest is 7-10. Will face number 6 seed St. Bernard, 7-14. Those were the records at the time of the tournament draw. Don't know exactly how they ended up, but it seems as if it'll be a pretty good game. Number 1 seed Cincinnati Christian at 15-5. They're stockpile loaded and have been for the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody will have their hands full that has to play Cincinnati Christian. They play Cincinnati School of the Performing Arts, who is 3-12 at the 13th seed. They were the lowest seed. Taylor 2, number 11, Felicity Franklin Cardinals, my group, 4-15 on the regular season. We lost a lot of close ones, but you know the kids progressed and the kids got better. The senior group, we had a couple kids that played JV last year as juniors. We had another kid that didn't play last year, played as a sophomore, started varsity, came back as a senior, didn't play as a junior. So our senior class maybe didn't have quite the leadership that we needed, but those kids gave 110% all year, and we got better. We're playing a lot of sophomores, so we've got New Miami, who's the number 2 seed at 15-5. We'll see how that goes. Number 5 seed Fayetteville, Perry, 9-11. Play the number 3 seed Laughlin Panthers at 9-11. Both teams are 9-11. Fayetteville has really emerged as of late. They started out slow and really picked up the pace as the season went on. So that'll be February the 22nd at 5:30, also at Taylor High School. Miami Valley Christian at 3-15, who plays in a really tough conference. Coach Pyle's a good friend of mine. We played them the last game of the season, and we talked about how in the Southwest District. And Tim Cook, if you're still watching, this is no knock against you or the committee, so please don't take it personal. But you know the way our tournament draw works in the Southwest District, and as we move on to the Southeast District, we'll talk about it some more about how it should be. But in the Southwest District, coaches do a seeding. You don't get your seeding until the day of the tournament draw, and it should be sent out to you before, so at least you know where you're at, because there's strategy that's involved in picking your line. So you don't just, the 1 seed doesn't automatically play the 16, the 2, the 15, so on and so forth. There's strategy behind what line you pick. And so in knowing that, it'd be nice to know what number seed you got. But like I was talking to someone else, and they told me the easiest way to make sure you get a good seed is to win basketball games in the regular season. And so that's something, to be said too, to take into consideration. You have successful seasons, you get respect at the end. Strength of schedule doesn't really matter when you're doing your tournament draw like this. Number 10 seed, 3-15, Miami Valley Christian. Coach Pyle spoke on him versus number 4 seed, Ripley Union Lewis Huntington High School, and Coach Woodward. Ripley's 2 years off of a sectional championship and a district appearance at UD Arena. They do have 3 or 4 kids that play on that team that were part of that team then, and so I look for them to be very, very competitive in this tournament. I think they can get past that first game, and I think they can get past that second game. So Ripley may be sitting in the sectional final versus the winner of Felicity, New Miami, or Euler on February 22nd at 6 o'clock. With Ripley High School being my alma mater, man, it would be nice to play Ripley in the sectional final. If that doesn't happen, we wish the Blue Jays the best of luck, and we wish Fayetteville the best of luck, with them being local teams. Euler, the number 8 seed, will await the winner of Felicity Franklin and New Miami, and Middletown Christian, 4-12, will await the winner of Cincinnati Christian and SCPA. Cincinnati College Prep will await the winner of Hillcrest and St. Bernard. In Division 4, some standout players to look for. New Miami has 2 kids, the Robinette brothers. They have been very good for a long time. They do have a kid named Doan who is also a pretty good player. So be on the lookout for New Miami. They're tough, but we'll be ready for them. We'll be prepared, and hopefully we can create an upset. Felicity Franklin has Carson Crozier at 15.5 points a game, Garrett Talby at 10 rebounds a game, and Stephen Jones has averaged 14 points per game over the last 8 games. So Felicity is playing better, but still has struggled to find some wins at the end of the season. So hopefully we play our best basketball at the right time of year. Regular season doesn't matter. Everyone else is 0-0 right now. The Cornett kid from Fayetteville and the Cornett kid from Fayetteville is a real good player. The Bradshaw kid is a real good player, and their best player is Murphy, and he's a really good kid, really good player as well. So be on the lookout for Fayetteville. Don't count them out against Laughlin or Ripley or Miami Valley Christian if they can get past Laughlin. Ripley is 11-9 as spoke. Nigel Royals averaging 20 points a game. Peyton Fife's right at about 12 to 13. Quincy Ellis is about 4 assists a game. Quincy is a really good point guard. He's a really good leader, and he takes care of the ball, and he gets Ripley in their offense and, makes good decisions and has been an integral part of Ripley being able to sustain the success that they've had late in the year. The key for Ripley, I think, in the tournament is going to be TK Whaley and his post presence. Is he going to be able to match up with some of these schools' others bigs, with him only being about 6 foot? He plays about 6'4", but 6 foot against 6'5" or 6'6" is what it is, and I just hope that he's able to compete. If TK Whaley can compete against some of those bigger kids, then Ripley's got a shot to get out of that bracket of the section. Again, segment number 3 was brought to you by Butterbees of Mount Orb and Hauser's Discount Market. We're going to move on, and we're not going to spend as much time on the Southeast District as we have the Southwest District, but we are going to talk a little bit about the teams to watch out for and the players to watch out for. In the first round, White Oak will take on Bainbridge Paint Valley. That'll be the 18th at 6:15. Manchester will take on Crown City South Gallia. That'll be the 18th at 8. We'll have Leesburg Fairfield, who won't play until the 25th, and they will play the winner, of Crown City South Gallia and Manchester. Those are the only local teams on that bracket. Morristown White Oak has picked up their play as of late. Don't know how their win-loss record ended up, but I know Coach Barnett does a real good job over there. And his son is a freshman, and he's a really good player over there. So I wouldn't necessarily count Morristown out. They're the 15. Bainbridge is the 18. They'll play, the winner of that game will play Bainbridge or play New Boston Glenwood, who is very, very good here in the second round of that tournament. Manchester has had a rough year. Struggled to get numbers and struggled to get things going. I do have Crown City South Gallia, unfortunately, in that first round game over Manchester. The winner of that will play Leesburg Fairfield. Leesburg Fairfield is just a little bit too far out for me to know much about, but I do know that they are usually competitive, and you can't just count anybody out in late February. Moving on, Peebles in Division 4, the number 1 seed. Peebles had a great year. Peebles is, I think, Glenwood, New Boston's only loss, or one of their only 2 losses. So Peebles has beat Glenwood, New Boston in the regular season, and Peebles is got a really good team. They're led by Hunter Ruckle and Weston Browning, both guards. Weston controls the tempo of the game, and Hunter makes a whole lot of shots. So when you've got a point guard that can control the tempo of the game, and when you've got a shooting guard that can go out and get hot and score 15, 16 points in a row, and you can get stops, you've always got a chance to win. So I got Peebles coming out of that top bracket of the sectional, and they'll be playing at the Convo on March 7th at 7 p.m. in the district final. And that's just what I got. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm just telling you what I got. In Division 3, we're going to talk about West Union, Lynchburg, Western Latham, and Eastern Brown. West Union is led by Zane Kingsolver great player. What a lot of people don't know is Zane had a lot of success at West Union when he was younger. So as a sophomore, they won a league championship. He was a starter on that team. As a junior, they had a pretty good season. And then this year, it's been kind of down. He's played with some younger kids. He lost some kids like Tanner and a couple of other kids last year. And so some kids have had to pick up some of the pieces. And I think they were young, and I just don't think that they were quite prepared for what was ahead of them this season. But they do play Piketon, who is a 15 seed, and they're the 18 seed. So they do have a chance to get out. I do believe Piketon is coached by Kyle Miller. They'll be ready to go. You can believe that. Lynchburg Clay, coached by Matt Carson. Matt's a good coach. Matt was at the state tournament a few years ago in 2014 or 2015. Had a real good group then, and he's been pretty successful over the last few years. This year and the year before, they were a little down, but I don't ever count them out. They're the 23 seed, though, playing Frankfort Adena, who they did scrimmage in the regular season. We went up there for a try in the regular season, and so they have Raymond Connor. Raymond Connor is a good kid and a good player, and if he has anything to do with it, they'll be competitive and they'll fight. Western Latham, don't know a lot about their roster, but I do know that on their coaching staff, they do have Doug Williams, and they do have Doug, who was over at Western Brown. I spoke about him a little bit earlier and his coaching prowess and how good of a job he does. And they also have Tyler Jemison over there, who is another guy from West Union who won a league championship at North Adams in 2010 with Craig Unger. So he has had some success. But in my bracket, to win that bottom half of the bracket and to be playing at the Convo on March the 6th at 8:15, I've got the Eastern Warriors. They'll have to take on Portsmouth or Western Latham, and then they'll advance to play the winner of Oak Hill or McDermott or Ironton and Wellston to get out to the Convo. I do have the Eastern Warriors, and the reason I have the Eastern Warriors is because of this. Ryan Boone is averaging 11.5 points a game, all while shooting 56% from the field. He's 104 for 184 for the year. That's a crazy field goal percentage for a guard. He's 21 for 53 from three-point land, which is 40%. That's crazy for a guard at the high school level. And then we've got Luke Garrett, who is averaging 11.8 points a game. He was 90 for 209 at 43%, but he was 54 for 119 for threes to a clip of 45%. Moving down the line, we've got Colton Vaughn at 11.5 points per game. Colton talked to me earlier in the year. He said, I don't care anything about scoring points. I want 1,000 rebounds. He's a team-first guy. And Colton ended the season with 220 rebounds. So he's well on his way to 1,000 rebounds because he's only a sophomore. Those are astronomical rebounding numbers for a kid that young. And then, last but not least, Titus Burns at 12.8 points a game and Tunner Hunley at 9.2 points per game. Eastern has a bunch of kids that can play, but they've got 5 kids that can flat out just go with about anybody in the city of Cincinnati, and especially in that Southeast District. These kids, Boone, Garrett, Vaughn, Burns, and Hunley, are household names. Everybody in this community knows who they are. Eastern's 21-1 overall, and 19-0 at home, and they went 13-0 in the conference and won the gold ball. Eastern is a handful. They're a load. Coach Woodward says Colton Vaughn's a junior. I thought he was a sophomore. I do apologize. But they are a load. They're really, really good. I was just looking through some of their stats here. They're shooting 47% as a team from the field, 34% for three. The best players in high school basketball shoot between 35 and 40% from three. Their whole team is shooting 34%, and that's on 418 of them from the year. The most staggering statistic is that these kids are shooting 75% from the free throw line as a team. A team goal that a lot of high school coaches have is probably 65%. They're shooting 75% as a team. They're at 68.1 points per game. Their biggest quarter is the quarter that matters the most, and I tell everybody this. The most important 8 minutes of the game is the first 4 minutes of the game and the first 4 minutes of the second half. Eastern's averaging at 309. Eastern had a total of 391 points in the first quarter, 419 in the third quarter, which means coming out of halftime, they can turn it up a notch. And that's what a lot of teams can't do. They have a whole nother gear. I like Eastern. I like Eastern Brown. I like Coach Buechler. I like what they do over there. They've been running the flex. We talked about it when I had Coach Himes and Coach Foster on the podcast several weeks ago. They're good. They're real good, and I like the opportunity that the Eastern Warriors have ahead of them. I wish all the local teams luck. This episode 6 was brought to you by Hauser's Discount Market. I will talk a little more next week in terms of some girls basketball statistics for the year. I will have a couple girls guest coaches on here next week. So, stay tuned for that. We appreciate everybody tuning in today. It was a great episode. I had a great time. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the questions and comments. Thanks for helping me out for the things that I asked you guys questions on. For episode 6, we're signing out.